made a mistake. Mistakes can be good. They are an opportunity to learn. But unfortunately, the higher the stakes, mistakes can often be deadly and we don't always get second chances. Welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10 and join me, Rachel Fisher, as we review our top 10 list of mistakes in history that cost people everything. From nostalgic apps to devastating disasters, all this and more only in today's video. So let's get going. Number 10. Radioshack. Good old Radioshack, the go-to place for CDs, electronics, MP3s, Walkmans, you name it. They were like the little brother to Best Buy. They enjoyed being the place people went to get the next best thing, but they made one deadly mistake. They stayed stuck in the past. Radioshack refused to get with the times when electronic sales started happening online. Which is kind of ironic because they're a tech company, you know? The company was already struggling, even filing for bankruptcy and having to close around 200 locations. But despite treading some pretty rough waters, Radioshack refused to engage in the new e-commerce world. As a result, their overwhelming debts and swiftly plummeting profit margins, Radioshack disappeared. Brings me back to the day when it finally closed in the tiny mall in my hometown. R.I.P. Radioshack. R.I.P. Number 9. Vine. I love how it rhymes. I loved Vine. It was the perfect outlet for my sad little acting student self when I wanted to get creative on my own terms or burst out laughing. Vine was so popular. It defined careers like Shawn Mendes, Us the Duo, Jesse Smiles, Rudy Manusco, and many others. So it was a shock to everybody when suddenly the app was no more. Finite, gone. Unfortunately, big apps like Instagram picked up the video trend and introduced their Reel feature, which expanded the kind of content they could support. The addition managed to be so successful that Vine became redundant. The biggest mistake Vine made was not giving their lead creators enough incentive to stay so it could compete with Insta and YouTube. So the app eventually collapsed. Because Vine couldn't give the incentive for creators to continue using the app, it led to its demise. Number 8. The Tokyo stock market. No matter how eloquent you may be, everyone has experienced the annoyance of a typo. Millions of times. Everyone has sent that one text to their mom they really didn't mean to send, or emailed the wrong person, but this typo led to the near collapse of an entire company. In September 2014, a trader in the Tokyo stock market accidentally pressed the wrong button and cancelled 42 separate transactions. The mistake amounted to a loss of over 67.78 trillion yen, which is about $617 billion. It was considered one of the biggest fat-fingered errors in history and sent everyone into a panic. If you weren't already, the stock market floors are insane. If you've ever seen the trading floors on the stock market, it's literally just a bunch of people yelling and waving. It is like the most high-stress job in the world. It's nuts. You'd think this would happen more often, but it remains the most extreme demonstration of how high stakes the stock market game really is. Number 7. John DeLorean. Unfortunately for John DeLorean, he was way past saving by the time his car got the attention he believed it deserved. He had so much going for him. He was the golden boy of General Motors. He was known for turning cars into legends. He just couldn't do the same when it came to his dream car, the DeLorean. The first and only car his company, the DeLorean Motor Company, would ever make. Sadly, and would sadly cost John everything. Despite his efforts to make it the first fuel-efficient sports car, which doesn't sound too bad, the performance was lackluster, it was super expensive, so they ended up only selling half of the cars they made. The company started to go bankrupt, and out of desperation, DeLorean got involved in a crooked drug deal with FBI informant Jim Hoffman, who remains in the witness protection program to this day. There's a movie about it. It's very good, with Jason Sudeikis, I believe. Needless to say, there was really no coming back for DeLorean even after he was cleared of all charges. His wife left him, took his kids, and he died alone at the age of 80, which is so sad. I was gonna make a Back to the Future reference, but this story actually got really sad. I wonder what DeLorean would have done differently if he had the chance to go back in time. Number 6. The Piper Bravo oil rig. When it comes to preventing mistakes, communication is key. In the case of the Piper Bravo oil rig explosion in 1988, a misstep in communication cost the lives of 167 men. It was one of the deadliest oil rig disasters to date. So where did they go wrong? During a shift change, some staff were not made aware that they were not to use a certain piece of pipework. It had been sealed with a temporary cover but no safety valve. Gas leaked out, fire spread, and the explosion surpassed the firewalls that should have have resisted the fire. The platform was destroyed entirely and it took 3 weeks for the fire to be contained. Number 5. The Cedar Fire. This story is why we should all listen to Smokey the Bear. Many who lived near Cedar Creek Falls in Cleveland can probably recall the Cedar Fire in 2003 with ease. The Cedar Fire consumed 280,278 acres of land, destroyed 2,820 buildings, and killed 15 people. The fire burned for just under 2 weeks, beginning on October 25th until finally being contained on November 4th. It remains one of the largest wildfires in California history, and it was all started by a hunter from West Covina. Sergio Martinez had been separated from his hunting partner for a while and was completely lost. He was losing daylight fast, and in a final attempt to establish his location, he sent up a signal flare to call for help. But by that point though, his partner had already phoned for help, but the fire had begun. When they found Martinez, alive thankfully, the fire had already reached the size of a football field. He was just trying to save his own life, and then that happened. I can't imagine how devastating that would be. Oof. Number 4. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill. I can understand trying to cut costs on your monthly phone or grocery bills, but cutting costs where lives are on the line? Not a wise move, Halliburton. On April 20th, 2010, the BP oil rig exploded when a bubble of methane triggered a devastating event. All safety equipment failed due to other errors on the rig, which resulted in one of the largest oil spills in history. Why did this happen? In an attempt to cut costs, Halliburton Oil Service Company injected quick-dry cement into the well under the Deepwater Horizon. They also concealed a computer model that showed under certain circumstances the cement could fail. The nitrogen-laced mud could leave channels for the gas to escape through, hence the methane bubble. BP stated that were it not for this mistake, the Horizon wouldn't have blown out. 3 million gallons of oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico, resulting in the death of 105,400 seabirds, 7,600 adult and 160,000 baby sea turtles, and a depletion of 51% of dolphins. The area is still recovering to this day. Number 3. The Titanic. I feel like this story can be summed up in one phrase: the unsinkable ship, which is so sad. On March 31st in 1911 in Belfast, Ireland, thousands upon thousands of people gathered to watch the world's most luxurious cruise ship to launch. Little did they know what would happen next. For years, experts have speculated whether it was just the iceberg that sunk the ship, but it was actually a combination of mistakes. They were traveling too fast, they made a wrong turn, and the first warning of an iceberg ahead was dismissed. At first, many people blamed E.J. Smith, the ship's captain, for sailing too fast in the iceberg-infested waters, but reports say that wasn't quite his fault. The ship was struggling to contain a fire in the burner room, which is why it kept speed. The second reason arose from Louise Patton, the granddaughter of Titanic officer Charles Lightoller, who survived. One of the ship's crew members got flustered in the urgent demand for hard at starboard, and then turned the wrong way because they had a very different rudder system. And lastly, a message from another ship warning of an ice wall wasn't passed on or considered urgent because it wasn't sent directly to the captain. So after that, the rest was sadly history. A bunch of mistakes happened here. Number 2. The Challenger. NASA hyped up the launch of the Challenger, a ship which aimed to send 7 astronauts up into space, including Krista McAuliffe, a teacher from New Hampshire. She was supposed to be the first civilian in space, but sadly she'd never make it, and the launch went nowhere near as planned. On January 28, 1986, the world watched in horror as 73 seconds into the launch, the ship exploded, claiming the lives of all those on board. Everyone just watched the launch in utter shock, and they were paralyzed. They couldn't do anything. Imagine that. The mistake? 2 rubber O-rings which were designed to seal the sections of the rocket booster failed. Why? On the morning of the launch, temperatures were unusually low, and engineers warned their superiors of the danger and that they shouldn't proceed. They ignored the warning, presumably due to the media hype surrounding the launch. This oversight not only cost the lives of 7 on board, but set NASA back $5.5 billion, as well as any future shuttle missions were suspended. Rightfully so. Learn from that mistake. Number 1, last but not least, Chernobyl. Poorly trained personnel and flawed reactor design resulted in one of the largest nuclear disasters on Earth. Chernobyl was a nuclear power plant in Ukraine that exploded on April 26, 1986. While performing a routine test, something malfunctioned, and 2 massive explosions blew the 1,000-ton roof off of the plant. To put it into perspective as to how bad it was, the reactors released 400 times more radiation than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. 2 workers were killed immediately from the blast, but 28 more would die due to exposure within months. Most of them were the firefighters who arrived at the scene, who said the explosion felt like pins and needles all over their body. The explosions also exposed the world to the secrecy and deception of the Soviet Union, who failed to reveal the atrocity as soon as it happened. So another mistake was made there. And that, my friends, was our list of top 10 mistakes in history that cost people everything. I certainly would not like to be in any of those people's shoes. Oof, man, high pressure jobs, you gotta respect people who do them. That's insane. I stop at stoplights and I can't make a decision about whether to turn right or left, so I'm not a high pressure kind of person. Anyways guys, if you like this video, press the like button, comment, subscribe, it really helps us out and we love it and we love you for watching. I've been your host Rachel Fisher, and until next time guys, take care. Oh, it's gone now.
Oh no. As soon as they record it's off, it's off. You have it right on pitch, and then record happens and that's it.
There we go, I just need to warm up. I've been your host Rachel Fisher, and from nostalgic apps, I'm gonna take that back. Join me, Rachel Fisher. Moral of the story, support your artists. Number 1, Chernobyl. Why did I say that like that? It's Chernobyl.
Make it fancy.
Guys, you don't understand, like, working this job, you kind of like, when you start presenting, you kind of start to like, you're like, oh, I'm reading about something awful. Turn it off! Turn it off! It's like that TikTok trend. Anyways.